Hey, what's up, you guys? Today I bring you my opinion on why I think women repeat themselves so much. To tell you the truth, I'm not someone who is like this, so I will explain it from a third person point of view. And I shall provide an example of when I caught myself repeating myself, but I'm telling you, I promise you, there are not that many examples. Anyway, let's dive right into it. The reason I think women repeat themselves so much, and I am going to base this off my experience being raised by my mother, is because according to her, she thought that would be a way of playing with my psychology and my brother's psychology. And what that means is, if you hear me being loud, if you hear me repeating something, when I have to repeat something, I'm annoyed because I expect you to get it the first time. It's like my voice is the voice of authority. So if I have to repeat myself, that means that I'm not emphasizing it enough, or I'm not making myself clear. I want for this to be clear, so I'm going to repeat it until it gets engraved in your mind. The more threatening that your voice sounds, the less likely that you are to want to mess things up, and therefore as a child you have that sense of intimidation. So it's like, ooh, let me comply with what my mom says because she really sounds nasty whenever she has to repeat herself. Analyzing this on a workplace setting, people may feel compelled to repeat themselves because of the freaking disease known as micromanaging. In my case, I'm one of those people who, you tell me something once and I remember that forever. I still remember my first day, like my training day. Every piece of advice that was given to me, everything that we went over, I remember that stuff, and that's what I apply day to day. But over the years, company policies change, and thus you have to evolve along with them. So I have had to relearn, unlearn, relearn, and just flat out learn some new things. That, as a human, it kind of interferes with you because it generates stress when you have to add new information to your brain at an unrealistically fast rate. It will create stress, especially if your performance is also being measured, and that determines whether you keep your job or not. I feel like stuff is repeated to you. If you don't respond the way you are expected in the first round, that means that the voice of authority is not being very effective. So the person feels compelled to repeat themselves so that they show you who's boss, or so that they don't fall behind. Think of it as policemen and women. If they go a whole day without giving out a ticket, they're not doing their job. Managers, if they don't repeat stuff to you or get onto you about even the dumbest of things, it's like they're not doing their job. Most of my leaders are female, and I've noticed that. I don't know if they forget that they told me something already, or if they're repeating it to emphasize that they rule, if that's just their nature, or it could also be that they don't know why I am delayed at getting something done, so they may feel like they have to remind me because I have forgotten. But either way, it's annoying, because I think that if you're someone who has to repeat themselves, it almost looks like the recipient is not trustworthy. I hope that I'm making sense. I never thought that I would be discussing this, but the reason I am going over this is because someone asked me that. They're like, you ever notice how mothers, bosses, teachers repeat themselves? Why is that? When it comes to teaching, repetition is important because some of us learn either through patterns, repetition, emphasis, visual cues. So for me, as an auditory learner, I guess my upbringing with a repetitive voice did aid me. What it did more than anything was make me feel stressed out. So anytime someone repeats themselves at me, I get this feeling inside of me that's like my guts are just flipping and turning, because it's like, what makes you think that I didn't hear you or understand you the first time? Just because I'm not moving at the rate that you want me to doesn't mean that I don't get it. I guess that's the reason I don't do this to anyone. In a day, if I say something more than once, it's because someone asked me to remind them about something. So I am periodically giving them reminders. Let's say that I'm hanging out with my boyfriend and he tells me, remind me to get water. If we are about to pass a grocery store, I'm like, do you want to get your water now? He may say, after we come back from, say, the gym. Like, okay. So after the gym, if I don't see him moving toward the grocery store, I'm like, did you change your mind on the water? And then he's like, oh, I had completely forgotten. Or whatever, you know? But some people who just repeat themselves seemingly for the sake of repeating themselves, y'all need to stop, because that stuff creates stress on the person, and unless the person actively asks you for that kind of support and reinforcement, being bombarded with the same information so much really is irritating, because it sends out the message of, if I'm not on top of you, you do not function independently. And for me, that's offensive. Anyways, you guys, what do you think? Do you see where I'm coming from? Does this answer your question? If you yourself ever wondered this, do you have a better explanation than me as to why this is the case? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to read what you guys have to say about this one, since if I didn't do a good job elaborating it, is because this kind of thing as an adult, I just learned to ignore, forgive, and forget, and not do this to someone else, since I hate it. Let me know your experiences as well, and we shall take it from there. Alright guys, as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you soon.